Hey guys, welcome to the New Deal, New Minute. We're going to look at the debate. New podcast episode came out yesterday, so please go to thenewdeal.com, check out the podcast, or go to your podcast provider of choice, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Go check it out. But breaking news, I have huge news for you guys. Check this out.
I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital, I had it, and I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure.
No, there is not a cure for COVID. I know he said there's a cure for COVID. I got really excited when he said it because he's the president, and I really believed that we finally had a cure for COVID, but I did some research, and we do not. The scientists say we will not have a vaccine or any real cure until at least sometime next year. So I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. Sorry, I got really excited. But anyway, there was a presidential debate last night. 55 million people tuned in to watch it. It was the final debate between Joe Biden and President Trump. We had some interesting moments, and there was definitely a large contrast between the two candidates. I'm going to start light with this episode of the New Minute, and then move on to some of the more serious stuff. So this moment was delightful.
I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds, it's very intermittent, it's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China.
That came in a segment where they were talking about energy and renewable energy, and I heard this before. I think I heard like last year that Trump said that windmills can kill birds, which I don't understand. The birds, they dodge the trees. Sometimes they dodge other birds that are chasing them through the sky. They dodge. They're very good at dodging, generally speaking. The only thing that's really difficult for them is clear glass windows. And last time I checked, the windmills were not translucent. So I don't know where he gets it from. It's really funny to hear him say it, but I don't know where he gets it from. But anyway, let's move on to some of the more serious content.
If you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want to talk about North Korea. I do want to turn to 10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician.
I really took issue with this because I think we've all been waiting for a serious debate, some serious dialogue between these two candidates. And in that moment, you had Joe Biden trying to talk to the American people about the issues that they experience. And Trump had an opportunity there to change gears with Biden and also speak to the American people. He also had the opportunity to look into the camera and tell Americans what he could do for them. And rather than do that, rather than communicate with the American people, Donald Trump chose to make fun of Joe Biden for speaking to the American people and being a typical politician. And newsflash, politicians are supposed to work for the people. They're supposed to connect with the people. That is literally their job. They might be a politician if they say something and then they don't come through on it. Sure, typical politician, okay. But to make fun of someone in a presidential debate for talking straight to the American people about their well-being and the struggles that they're going through, I think shows exactly how wide the disconnect is between Donald Trump's mindset and what he thinks normal Americans, what kind of lives they lead. It's a major disconnect, and we shouldn't have a president making fun of a candidate for talking to American families. I do think that is unacceptable. So, the debate had some other moments, but where I really want to focus is on race. And I want to start real quick with immigration, but then I want to get into some of the things he said about Black Lives Matter and just race in general. So this next clip shows Donald Trump saying, how well he's handled the immigration situation.
Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you about
I will say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and then
brought
I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
Now, it is just common knowledge that these children are not well taken care of. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Let's put the blame aside, who started what, like which administration put which practices in place. The fact of the matter is, it has been well reported, these children are sleeping with Mylar blankets. These kids are in freezing conditions at time. The buildings that they are housed in are overcrowded. There's been stories about things like forced hysterectomies. Children who are breastfeeding are taken away from their mothers. And then all of that, on top of the plain trauma that these kids must be feeling about being removed from their parents at a young age. That's a traumatic experience. It's a scary experience. And it's not like, oh, they went to go live with, grandma for a little bit. They're alone with all these other kids that also have no parents around, with people who likely don't speak the same language as them, kind of supervising them. And so they're not well taken care of. They're not even taken care of, really. I mean, if you're talking about basic survival, like, we keep them alive with food and water, sure. But well taken care of? No, these kids are not being treated like they should be treated. I imagine that prisoners are treated better than these kids are. So, again, out of step, out of touch. And we should be working on solutions for these problems. If you're not even going to acknowledge the problem, if you think everything's great, you're not going to work on the problem. Out of step, out of touch. Some of the other things that he commented on were in regard to race, in regard to Black Americans. The first clip right here, my jaw dropped when he said this.
They can say anything. It makes me sad, because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
So the president of the United States is proud of himself for being the least racist person in the room. Maybe because he couldn't see the people sitting in the audience. If he could, he may have been maybe not the least racist person in the room. He was really concerned about being able to see the people sitting in the audience. So we don't actually know that he's the least racist person in the room. But we do, because all of his policies, all of his rhetoric has shown time and time again that Donald Trump is a racist. He's probably the most racist person in the room. We don't need to think about it. We're certainly not going to take his word in this situation about it. So I don't understand where he gets this stuff. And I don't understand how he doesn't realize the implications of what he's saying. I don't understand how he doesn't, again, realize how out of step he is with all of his other behavior. Just because you say something doesn't mean that it erases a full history of your behavior. It's absurd. The final thing, and I talked about this on the podcast, is that Black Lives Matter, he's been demonizing them specifically. And in this next clip, he's going to say, why he demonizes them, because, this was his experience. And after that, I want to play some clips of Joy Reid on MSNBC last night, because she was fantastic in regard to this situation. But first, here's the clip of Donald Trump talking about Black Lives Matter.
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon.
Now, if you've had the time to listen to the New Deal podcast this week, we talked about the Black Lives Matter mission statement, and I read right through it. They don't condone violence. It's not what they're looking for. They're just trying to, have a voice for the Black community. Joy Reid on MSNBC last night was talking about, Donald Trump in general and his history with race. One interesting thing she said, and I don't have the clip here, I'm not going to show that to you guys, but I will put a link down below if you want to check it out, because it was a great 4-minute monologue. She was reading excerpts from Donald Trump's book from the early 90s, and some of the things he said about crime and criminals in general in the prison system, I had never heard before. He is extreme. So, check out that video below. It's the first thing she talks about, I believe. So definitely go check out that video below if you just, want to hear that. But Joy Reid started talking about her experience with Black Lives Matter. And I think this is important. because we cannot allow the national discussion on a group that's trying to do good be completely spun around because our president does not feel like he wants to address the issue of race. So here's Joy Reid, MSNBC, last night.
One more, and then I will stop.
No, you don't have to stop.
This pigs in a blanket, this pigs in a blanket frying like bacon lie about Black Lives Matter has been galling me since the people on the right started throwing it out there. They are basing that on a march for Eric Garner in New York. 40,000 people marched because of the outrage over the choking death of Eric Garner. I actually covered that march.
So we are literally talking, Donald Trump is literally talking about maybe one incident in years and years and years ago that happened one time, and he's saying that this is basically their motto. He's trying to generalize this one incident so much that it should define not only Black Lives Matter, but likely the entire civil rights movement that's going on right now. And she brings up one other point, and she says it much better than I will, but how does Donald Trump expect to win the black vote? He says he's done more for African Americans than any other president, than maybe besides Lincoln. He said it many times. And yet, so he's clearly trying to get the black vote, but then he says things like this. And I don't understand how he thinks saying things like this will get him, in the good graces of the black community. So here's Joy Reid for the last time, just talking about, Donald Trump's expectations on the black vote.
For him to traffic that again tonight was not only desperate, it was not only desperate, it was also stupid, because he also wants black men to vote for him. I hate to break it to you, Donald Trump, but black men in a extreme majority, okay, would also like to not be killed by police, and would also like to have police reform and to have police not be able to kill a Breonna Taylor and walk away and get away with it.
Just stop killing black people. It's that simple. And I wish Donald Trump would just say they should stop killing black people. That's all he would need to say. It's much simpler than the approach that he's taking. All he needs to do is act like he's interested in their cause. So I digress. I know this has been a longer New Minute, and I focus much more on Trump than Biden because I thought Biden was great. I thought he was strong. I thought he tried to connect with the American people. He talked about policy. He answered questions on things like, fracking. Most importantly, though, what I think Joe Biden did well is he has repeatedly admitted that he made mistakes in the past. And I think Trump doesn't know what to do with that. He's trying to pin him for things, and Joe Biden says, yep, I did it, and it was a mistake, and here's what I want to do in the future. And Donald Trump can't nail him down. So I think Biden has had a great strategy. I think in contrast, they were night and day. Night and day. I don't think, and I posted this before, no reasonable person watched that debate last night and thought Donald Trump had a good debate. No reasonable person. I have hardcore Republican friends who are saying that Trump did not have a good night. So, if your guy sucks, own it. When he's good for you. But when he sucks, own it. When Obama had that really bad first debate in 2012, all of the liberals and the Democrats were like, ooh, that was a bad debate. Obama needs to do better. Own it. Have some standards. So the debate last night I thought was good. I don't think it changed minds. I thought Biden was fantastic. I think Trump was ridiculous. So that's my take on the debate. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The New Minute. Again, please go check out the new episode of the podcast at thenewdeal.com or on your podcast provider of choice. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.